What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Napoleon review. I actually had really high hopes for this one. I was thinking maybe we could get two absolutely insane biopics in 1 year. And when you pair an absolute world-renowned director with an insane budget and one of the most influential historical generals of all time with an insane story, you expect a masterpiece to ensue. But unfortunately, unlike Oppenheimer, we got a very average, choppy, confused biopic. When the director is talking about how he doesn't care about the actual history and keeping the movie historically accurate, you know you're in big trouble. The movie is more focused on his life and his relationship with the character Josephine, who is played by Vanessa Kirby, rather than his battles and his historical influence. And my problem with this is the plotline isn't really even explored well. We don't actually see the real dynamic of their relationship at all. For the most part, the relationship between Napoleon and Josephine seems very one-sided because Josephine isn't really interested in him, and it just makes Napoleon seem like this really desperate guy who's really in love with this woman who just ends up cheating on him, and the only time she actually wants him is when he threatens to leave her because I guess she'd be broke. I don't know. I don't know if that's what the actual situation was, but the relationship had no interest to me because clearly both characters, they didn't really like each other. Especially Josephine. She didn't really like Napoleon, which was kind of weird to see. And like I said, we don't see this dynamic because the only real thing they show us is her not being able to have a child and them having this weird argument at a dinner table. Actually see a dynamic. We don't actually feel any connection between the characters. So it feels almost like a waste of time. The movie is marketed as Napoleon's rise and fall. You know, I remember seeing in the trailer the rise and fall of a tyrant. But the movie doesn't really tell us what did he do to gain power? How did he do it? What did he do for France? Why was he doing this? It doesn't even show us his early life and his motivations. We start at this point where he is already like a very high up in the military. We never actually see his why. Why did he want this power so bad? Why did he rise to France? There is no exploration of Napoleon's life and motives. They hint at his ruthlessness at times where like one time he fires a fucking cannon into a crowd and they're like, yeah, this guy's not a great guy. And they show that he loves his country. Well, they don't really show it. He just says it a few times that he loves his country, right? They do show his military influence in a few battles. They don't really show him being like a mastermind or whatever he actually was. They just kind of show that he was a general. And they kind of put all the most interesting things about Napoleon into the backseat to put this weird relationship at the forefront, which I have no investment in and I really couldn't care less about. And I understand that maybe they didn't want to show a man who, you know, murdered however many people and maybe wasn't the nicest man and was kind of a tyrant in a kind of glory or make him seem as a hero. They kind of do a real disservice to who the guy actually was or what he actually accomplished. And it just feels like they missed a huge opportunity with that. Next thing I want to talk about is Joaquin Phoenix's portrayal of Napoleon because I'm kind of conflicted on this because on one hand, he is a very great actor and he's done a number of great movies like The Joker, Gladiator, etc. But I'm not sure if he actually was the right man for this one. I know, like Ridley Scott said, he looks like Napoleon. Like, you saw his face, he's like, that's the guy. And maybe he does. But he makes one of the most ambitious, greatest military generals in history kind of just look like an absolute bumbling, crying moron who is just actually kind of stupid and didn't really do anything. You know what I mean? Like, for the most part, this guy's just complaining and crying about shit for the entire movie. It almost seems like a continuation of his character in Gladiator, where he is this really insecure, really dog shit leader of a country that no one actually likes, and he's just there because he got lucky or because of some random reason, and everyone wants him dead. Which I don't necessarily think that was what happened. And of course, we know that Ridley Scott said he don't give a fuck about the history. So, hey, with his portrayal, you never really feel that tyrant energy, that hunger for power, that fear. Like when there's a tyrant, when there's an evil man or just a general who sees power, like they've got to have some fear factor. They've got to have some kind of villain aura. In this movie, Napoleon has none of that, bro. He's, like I said, he's just a crybaby for the most part, who's just like salty that his wife cheated on him. And, you know, yeah, that's cool. I'm the general of the military and I'm the most powerful man in the country. But that takes the back seat because, you know, he's got to cry about his wife cheating on him, even though he also cheated on his wife. So it doesn't make sense. You know, we do see that ruthlessness a little bit, and we do see that almost tyrant side a little bit, where he kind of tries to seize power, and they kind of announce that he's going to be the dictator, and he places the crown on his head and shit like that, and then he fires some cannons into a crowd of civilians. So it shows that it shows that side of him a little bit. But for the most part, he's just shown as this sissy crybaby guy, and I just don't like it. It's almost like you can feel the absolute lack of respect to the source material, and like they were just trying to mold this Napoleon character to a narrative. Now, obviously, I am not a historical expert. I don't know everything about Napoleon, but it feels like from what I do know, this doesn't seem like a very respectful thing. And we know that Ridley Scott already said that if you care about history, he doesn't give a fuck. He's just going to make the movie that he wants, which I think is just kind of retarded. When you start calling your audience stupid, that's when you know somebody's got a bit of an ego trip going on. Let's talk about some of the good stuff in this movie. I want to say some of the battle scenes in this are absolutely amazing. They are really, really well coordinated. The cannon fire, the effects of like the cannonball just vaporizes a horse at one point. The cannonballs just vaporize human beings. There's a few times where some of the drummers just get absolutely obliterated. And I thought all of those scenes were really, really well done. Like, they didn't skimp on it. They didn't try and cut corners. They spent the budget in the right places. I have to give them credit for that. And the 3 battle scenes they depicted, I think all of them were really, really entertaining and really awesome. Especially the ice scene where I think they just send all them, was it Austrians or Russians into the ice. I thought that was probably the best part of the movie. I know they showed it in the trailer. But also the aesthetics and the backgrounds in this movie was amazing. Like, they captured that era of France really, really well, and it looked beautiful for the most part. I will give credit where credit's due to some of the acting. I know a lot of people are giving Vanessa Kirby an immense amount of credit for her portrayal. I don't think it's anything revolutionary. I think it was good, but it wasn't amazing. I think Joaquin Phoenix does all right as Napoleon. Like I said, a bit conflicted in it, but you know, most of the acting is a high level, but that's what you expect from actors of that caliber. But next thing I want to talk about is the actual cut of this movie, because it is so fucking jumpy, bro. Like, we just bounce from point to point to point, especially in the first half of the movie. In the second half of the movie, it's a bit more, it flows a lot nicer, and we get a little bit more depth and a little bit more, you know, context to what's going on. But for the first half of the movie, we are just sprinting through these different historical pinpoints. I think probably because they didn't want to make the movie longer than it was. It's already quite a long movie at 2 hours, 40 minutes. They probably didn't want to delve into the 3-hour mark. But when there's been some amazing movies this year that a bunch of people really love that are 3+ hours long, I just think maybe you could have just bit the bullet and made the movie longer, because it is a biopic. No one expects a biopic to be short or to be concise, and I feel like we missed a lot of context on certain events, or we didn't get to flesh out certain events, or certain characters were just left without any explanation because they wanted to move on and not waste any time. And I'm sure there's a longer version of this movie that would be much better than this one. You know, like, there's a longer cut where we get a lot more context, and it is maybe more of a masterpiece than this one is, at least. Also, leading on from that, there is a few characters in this movie that just show up and then disappear without explanation. For instance, Napoleon's brother is in the first half of this movie, and, you know, he plays quite a significant part. Like, he has quite a high position, and then all of a sudden, the brother, it just disappears at the face of the earth, and we don't see him for the rest of the movie. And also, his second wife, the Duchess of Austria, whatever she was, you know, he has a kid with her. She's there on screen for about 2 minutes, and then suddenly, we never hear from her again. Like, where's the context, brother? Like, throughout the movie, we're getting captions trying to give a bit more context to what's going on, maybe because they can't show on screen. Yet, for certain bits, like, we don't even need to caption this, we're just going to move on. Like, I don't want to do homework. I don't want to be going there and searching what happened to Napoleon's brother, what happened to Napoleon's, or like, can you tell me what happened, brother? That is the point of the movie, you know? And the final negative I want to bring upon this movie is the actual message they're trying to convey. I touched on it earlier, but the movie seems a bit convoluted because it's trying to show Napoleon's relationship with Josephine and show maybe a different side to him than what you would have expected. But at the end of the movie, they just start listing off a death list, you know, about how many people died in each battle Napoleon fought. And even for the second half of the movie, it's a bit more focused on his power-hungry nature and his dictatorial rule. Why didn't we see that in the first half of the movie? Like, it's like they had 2 different movies, 2 different plot points, and they didn't have enough time to explore both. So they just tried to mash both together and, like, hope it sticks. And I feel like they should have just made the movie longer in that case. Like, are you trying to show me a man who had a human side and really loved his wife more than his country, or are you trying to show me a man who was just a ruthless tyrant who wanted the best for France? You know what I mean? Like, are you trying to paint him in a positive light, or a negative light? I don't understand. It's like they try to tiptoe between it, and it doesn't really work. Like, the narrative doesn't really work. But overall, I would say this movie is decent. It could have been a lot better if they actually picked a direction. I think they shouldn't have put his relationship at the forefront of the movie. I think they should have focused more on Napoleon being a general. Like I said, I would have liked to see what his motivations were from being a child and moving forward through his life. To me, that's the whole point of a biopic. We started way too late into his life, in my opinion, for us to have any connection to him or feel any kind of way, or for them to even paint him in any kind of light. I think, like I said, I think they should have shown more of the conquering, ruthless general that he was, and this uninteresting wife arc. I mean, I'm sure there's some people that will appreciate it. Personally, didn't really like that part of the movie too much, because even with all that said, Josephine plays a very insignificant role in the actual movie in terms of his motivations and what he ends up doing. So at least I'm happy that they showed the rise and fall through the trailers. I didn't think they were gonna. I thought they were just gonna show the rise, because they had no inclination of showing him falling off, but they showed it all. Overall, I'd give this movie a 6.5 out of 10. I don't even know if it'll crack my top 20 movies this year, if I'm being deadly honest. I just think there's too many problems. You guys let me know if you watched the movie. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and yeah, what do you think? I'll see you all in the next one.